Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Masochists Marathon. So we start this episode off with getting things set up for red belts. I'm finally going to move away from yellow belts. I've been trying to put it off due to the extreme expense red belts are going to have, but I kind of prefer the idea of moving from yellow to red rather than doubling the number of yellow belts, which is another way you can do it. It's just a load of faffing around getting stuff transported over. Now, I set this up so that the inserter outputting the item is set to only output if there's less than a certain amount in the logistics system, and then I have requester chests feeding the red stuff production, which you might think is a bit crazy because the bots have to move stuff over, but it does kind of guarantee everything in the logistics system is used first. But I probably could put a third throughput of a long armed inserter with a circuit wire to the requester saying only pass stuff over if the requester is empty. I just didn't really do it past me, didn't bother. I just kind of thought this will guarantee it, and I don't really need to think about it too much, just so long as the throughput issue is cogs or whatever. Anyway, while doing that, we do get attacked over at the top end of the smelting. There is a certain direction they're coming in where they can sneak past my crappy defenses, but I do sort that out in a little bit to try and stop that ever happening again. So this episode I want to get on with a follow-on from what we were doing last episode, which was getting the steel outpost set up. Now we can liberate 2 steel smelting setups, which will give us a total of 4 iron smelting columns per se. But to do that, we do need to add this 8th yellow belt in, but also we need to upgrade one of the belts from this balancer to red to double up the throughput of one of the belts, just so we get a full... I think we need 8 belts of iron just for iron smelting to fulfill the main bus layout I've done. So we need to double one of them up because we are still having one of the columns here in the factory smelting steel, just in case the outpost can't keep up or runs out of iron. We've at least got some steel coming through one column, not giving you very much. Anyway, we move all this about and we get the number of belts all done. So the first 2 iron columns will be fed by a single red belt, because a red belt is the equivalent of 2 yellow belts per, roughly. I mean, I don't know how accurate that is. Pretty much is anyway. But we start getting some of it upgraded to red, but obviously we don't have much on us. We have to wait for the factory to kind of produce it, but we do get there eventually. There is a lot of skipping around in this because I think it's about an hour and a half's worth of gameplay in the first session of play I do. I usually do about 2 sessions of an hour's worth of play now and edit it down to 20 minutes. Anyway, we cut off the iron to those steel smelting columns earlier, waited for the steel to feed out of it for a while we did other stuff, but it's now generally passed down so we can start laying out the factory so that the iron can be fed onto the main bus. Here we are letting the iron back into these old steel smelting columns. I do have to go through all of them still and take out all the iron, so we go up to 6 times speed, I think we put this out, or maybe even 10 times speed, just to empty all of these out because I thought it would be fun to do it at that speed. So that was a hell of a lot quicker than it took me in real time, or past me real time. And we come and extend the network up here just so it can build all these yellow belts here. I don't want to be faffing around doing that. We can just let the factory do it whenever it wants. And we also put in a couple of crude turrets there just to prevent any of those biters that do actually manage to sneak through. But later on, we put even more defenses out because I realised where they're getting through. So we do get that all sorted. And I come and clear that steel belt up. So next up, we need to move the electronic circuits input to the bus because A, it's in the way, and B, I never really intended it to come in here. So we get all that removed away and we jump ahead to where we're going to put it. It's going to get fed through that bit there so that... yeah, it's out of the way. That's where the 4 belts would usually go in my vanilla games. It's just due to the expensive recipes, I'm never going to have that column here in the factory. Hence the electronics outpost, which we built ages ago, which definitely needs expanding. But we have this pass-through here, and I have this absurd balancing thing here that we really don't need. I just think it looks pretty, so I'm just going to have it in any way. We get this corner all sorted out, and the 4 belts of electronic circuits laid out. I don't really bother putting in that 4th one there. I just connect it in for now and we'll deal with that later. Next up, we need to sort out the balancer here. So I try and place it once and I mess it up. But my plan here is to take 8 belts of yellow iron and just have it outputting 4 red belts of iron, because in my head that makes sense, and if it doesn't, hopefully someone will tell me, but hopefully the throughput of this balancer all works fine, and this is going to be fine. Rather than putting in 8 belts of yellow, I thought this would be better. I don't know. Yeah, this is still just a theory I've made up in my head. Just assumed it's going to work, but we shall see. I do mess around for ages trying to upgrade the main bus to red belts. I make a lot of it myself, so we do skip through a lot of it. I try and get 1 belt feeding through at least so the factory can keep up, but it is occasionally delivering me with red belts. But we do skip a hell of a lot of it. I was tempted just to skip the entire thing, but I thought that was a bit cheeky. I'm going from starting off the series saying I will have absolutely everything in every episode to editing out like 50% of the gameplay. Now we come up here and replace the power pole because I realized when they attacked the smelting column, they took out this pole on the way down. They're kind of diagonally coming in here. So I put those laser turrets there, hopefully stopping it, leaving those ones up there just to guard the roboports up there just in case the biters do get through. But eventually that's all going to stop soon because I want to clear the entire northeast area. I want that entirely clear. That's going to be where all our outposts hopefully are going to be. We're going to be bringing in resources north of there. We're going to have a processing units outpost. I'm probably going to have an electronics too, just because of the sheer size those outposts need to be. I just need to travel very far north to go and find more iron patches because we're running out of patches to tap, and we're going to have to do a lot more exploring. But I don't want to hype this up too much, but it may be in the form of a live stream where I do an absurd amount of biter slaying, but I should probably start trying to avoid having live streams that solely consist of biter slaying, but then it's not episodes, so I don't know. I'm still trying to work it out. Anyway, we come and clear out iron 3, I think it is, or iron 4, because this was depleted a very long time ago. I just completely forgot about it. So we bumped this up to 6 times speed to get this all cleared out. I didn't want to edit it out completely. I just thought, again, it would be fun to have this all at a nice high speed. We leave the turrets in for this area just to stop any expansion from getting through. There is another iron patch near here of like 4 mil, so I really want to tap that soon. But a lot of biter slaying involved to uncover it, but it looks pretty huge on the map. We come and clear all the miners out from iron 4. We then go to look at hopefully tapping the iron patch up in the north. That's kind of half copper, half iron, because it's the easiest one we can get to. So we come and clear this base out here. It's clearly too close to the tracks as it stopped this copper train, losing one of its locomotives. So that was a very long journey, bringing that train down with only 1 locomotive. We come back to replenish that with another locomotive engine and also my car, which we lost at the end of last episode. I need to produce that and get that back. So we get the locomotive produced and we come and pop it on the front of one of the copper trains and send that back on its way. My idea there was to head back up on that iron train, but we missed it and we ended up just getting into the copper train that we fixed. Anyway, on our way up, I wanted to clear a biter base here because it's way too near this junction, and it kept trains kept drawing in biters from it. I don't know why I struggled to talk about that so much. Anyway, we hop in the car and we drive the rest of the way over, stopping again at this iron outpost just to pick up a few more miners, but this outpost isn't living for much longer. I really need to get on with productivity modules because otherwise I'm just going to be spending the entire series just setting up outposts all the time, or at least I'm going to have to start setting up outposts outside of the recording. Otherwise every episode is me just setting up new outposts every single time. So we really need to get productivity in so these last longer. We get more resources from it. We also need to head further and further away from the main factory so that the patches do get nice and thicker. This little patch up here isn't very big, but it's 1.6 million, which is quite a lot for a patch of its size, but it's very frustrating. I didn't like setting up this outpost, so I do cut out a hell of a lot of it. We do see a little bit of the biter pushing here just because it was a little bit mental. But yeah, I really wasn't happy with doing this outpost because it's got this horrible line in the middle, which I just crudely deal with by just sticking those miners in and then have some filter inserters dealing with it. We will tap the copper on this soon when we need it, but we're not using copper anywhere near as much as iron, or at least I don't think we are, even though the most produced item is copper wire. But yeah, we just do the old filter inserter setup here and just have the copper going into steel chests for now, which isn't great. I totally understand that. Anyway, we skip ahead, laying out the iron station, which is now going to be iron 6. these names of stations being really interesting. Nowhere near as interesting and as fun as Bentham's method of giving towns really cool names and getting people to vote on them. I think that's a brilliant idea. If I went and did that, I would just be completely and utterly be accused of plagiarism, so I'm not doing that. I'm just sticking with the good old boring 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, so forth. Anyway, we get this all hooked up. We add this into the schedule for the train that was going to Iron 4 or Iron 3. Like always, I forget the names of all the stations. But yeah, we will be heading more north from here as we want more and more patches. This line will probably eventually become two rails going each way. There is a bit of a crap edit there as well. This is where I took a break after an hour and a half worth of play, only being halfway through the episode, so a lot of compressed footage there. We get some defenses in for the train. It's all pretty terrible and crude like usual, but yeah, just to save time, I don't really care, and we head back down on the iron train, rarely actually watching the full journey because I thought we haven't had the full journey for a while. But I'm always losing construction robots. I'm never letting them come back to me and charge, and they're always getting destroyed on the way up or way down. But yeah, next thing I want to sort out, as you can see here, the electronic circuits keep coming through in bursts. We haven't got a constant flow, and I'm not surprised 4 yellow belts or 3 yellow belts of electronic circuits would require a huge amount of production with the expensive recipes we have going. So that is one thing I need to sort out. I think we're going to have to build a second electronics outpost, but yeah, that would require a huge amount of resources, so I really need to work on how I'm going to deal with that. But I really would like to get on with productivity and speed module 3s so we can start putting beacons in, which of course all need power and stuff. So after Kovacs, I think that's going to be my main goal. Once we've got Kovacs researched, we can sort that out and get a load more nuclear power in, and we really won't have to worry about not using it all the time, but we're going to need it soon because we are getting on the very edge of our power production capabilities. I come in and get some miner and electronic furnace production in because we're going to be using these a hell of a lot more. To start with, I use the passive providers for getting my method that I want to do now with using active providers and having them stored right where I'll be getting off trains, because I'll be doing less and less work in the main factory once science is up to full speed, which is still going to take a little while, but we are getting closer. The shortfall now being electronic circuits, not iron. Iron looks like it's doing pretty well. Apart from the iron actually coming in to the depot, that is probably eventually going to be the problem. We're going to start having gaps now that we've pretty much doubled up the amount of iron we're going to be smelting. But yeah, soon I will be pushing out to that huge iron patch east of the old iron outpost we've just taken out. So the last bit of the episode is all just one piece of footage. It was the last 40 minutes of gameplay. I didn't have much more time to play today. Otherwise, I would have edited this down quite heavily. But I wanted to do some work on the electronics outpost. So right now, we're just going around collecting a load of stuff, load of electronic furnaces, because I want to upgrade it all to red belts, double up the length of the smelting furnaces, because they don't currently have enough room to add more columns, which I'd probably rather do. And then we're going to add a load more assembly machines on the green circuits. So I collect a load of stuff for some more electronic furnaces and just general stuff for my pocket. We also upgraded those belts to red all the way to the belt production. So yeah, we'll have more and more access to red belts. It's nice them being at the end because all the science production kind of gets priority first. I also noticed I haven't actually hooked up the steel. So the logistics system has been filling up with steel. We've not actually been using it. So that's why it's all so thin. So we get the requesters in. I figured this is kind of the best place to put it. I think I got it all requested, then I realise I did it wrong. We get some power in, and then when the bots don't bring it over, I realise, and we get that all sorted out. So that should feed on there. I should really put an underground belt on there just to make sure it saturates it nicely, and I finally get the unloading of the steel done as well. So it wasn't even filling up the logistics system. It was the train's just been sat here the whole time, and steel 1 has probably just all backed up, and it's sat there doing nothing. So yeah, so that's going to kick off now and start feeding the factory. So there was a bit of a lull in steel, but no major issue there. So we come up trying to upgrade all of this, trying to speed it up. So what I want to do is double up the length of the columns and then obviously add a load more assemblers as well, and try and get at least more than 1 yellow belt's worth of electronic circuits. But yeah, as soon as this is finished mining all of its copper and iron, we're going to be screwed. I'm going to have to find a load more copper and iron to bring in here, but it does mean I can rebuild the whole outpost and make it even bigger. We do get a pretty big attack down at the coal outpost just south of us, where I stole a load of turrets before, so clearly I shouldn't have really stolen those turrets. I think it was last episode now. But yeah, not too much damage. They actually do all right. So I put a load of turrets in there just to prevent that from happening again. But hopefully we won't need any defenses in this area soon, because I want to clear this entire area right up to the lakes we found up in the north. It's going to be a huge amount of bite slaying. So I need to decide when I'm going to do that. It's going to be pretty huge. We need to make sure the base is fed with enough resources while I do that. And I also realise this column of miners here is one space over. So I should really delete all this and move it over one, because that is just very annoying. Anyway, we come and upgrade all these belts to red. I only do it up to the input because, yeah, they're feeding 2 yellow belts, so it doesn't need to go all the way down the column for us to double up the length. That should be just enough for it. We are going to have to pretty much cover the whole copper and iron patches as well to be able to feed those electronic furnaces once we get there. I don't do the furnaces straight away though, because I'm a bit conscious about the power, which we'll go into in a minute. And I come and try and add a load more iron miners in, and then I realise I've pretty much run out. I thought I'd brought loads up, but actually a stack of 50 and a bit isn't actually that many these days. So in the future I need to make sure I bring a hell of a lot more electronic miners with me when I come and do outposts and stuff. So next up I want to have a look at extending these columns. So I want to double them up to 24, even though I don't really want to make them any bigger than 12 smelters in length, because with beacons, speed module 3s and productivity module 3s, 12 electronic furnaces pretty much saturates a blue belt anywhere, or at least in my testing it seems to, or it like saturates it 38 items out of 40. I think you actually have to use splitters and a whole different layout to actually 100% saturate it, which I'll probably do when I rebuild the whole thing, because it needs to be one space wider to fit those in the middle. But I don't know, it would be nice to hear people's opinions on that. But in my testing I had a column of 12 electronic smelters long with the beacons running on either side, and then the one in between each set of underground belts. You can fit quite a few in, and that seems to pretty much saturate the blue belt. So I don't really want to make these 24 long, but it's going to be a while until I get speed and productivity module 3s. I kind of want to skip straight to the 3s, not bother with the 1s, although someone will probably go and convince me to start using the lower tier ones anyway. I know Bentham was very particular about using 1s and 2s before moving on to the 3s. But I kind of like jumping straight to it, but I've not really looked at how much they cost. It's going to use a lot of processing units and obviously copious amounts of electronic circuits. So realistically, I'm probably not going to get to those for a while. So I should really double these up to 24 long and probably do an electronics 2 rather than trying to expand this one even more. So I probably need to just find an ideal spot for an electronics 2 outpost. Anyway, we come back to the factory to gather a load of stuff, just almost missing the train, and then I send it back to the depot for some reason. But at this speed, it really doesn't matter. I'm not even sure what I actually needed to come back for, because I had a load of stuff. I had a load of electronic furnaces, and it was all going to be great. So not completely sure why I went back. I've kind of, past me as a different person. I don't share memories with him, so I can't remember what he was thinking of, and it's not clear from the footage. We were going to make a load of inserters, obviously, to double these up. I get the outputs converted to red to at least make sure that's going at full speed, to at least try and get these all running without expanding it. But of course, it's not really going to make any difference, since the 12 long columns just about perfectly saturates the yellow belt. So making these red is kind of pointless, but we do need to extend the columns. So this is kind of in aid of that. I'm just kind of going backwards. Anyway, don't know what I was thinking here. I was just watching how it looks almost like a complete yellow belt. But of course, that was just the momentary increase in throughput. Now, I try and push these back, obviously, because the columns aren't going to fit. And I could probably clear these right up to the rail in the east. But we have a bit of a problem. We get pretty overwhelmed, and that's due to there not really being enough power. We managed to deplete the accumulators, but I don't want to retreat. I decide to carry on fighting until we pretty much clear a load of bases. But I realise power is a pretty big issue. So I put off doing the biter pushing because it's a bit risky. Now we haven't really got enough power to do it, and definitely not increasing the electronic smelting columns because we just don't have enough power. So next episode, we're going to probably finish off the nuclear layout and get that all cleared up. And then hopefully Kovacs is done by then, so we can get that refining and we can really increase our power and get some proper biter pushing done up here. With all that said and done, that's going to be all we have time for. I do hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please do come and join us in the next episode. Bye-bye.